What's up, Epic 7? Welcome to Nightmare of the Emotions RC8. This is for people who've made it all the way to Rift Controller 8. Here is your one-shot team. This is my favorite team so far, and it's got some new and interesting tech in it that I think might help you at all level of rifts. So, here we go. Running the same units as before, but we've made a couple of changes. First, let's go over the Rift controllers. At RC8, you pick up a couple of new Rift controllers. There's this first one, which helps Thief Heroes out, and it's when Thief Heroes use a single attack, damage dealt increases proportional to the number of debuffs inflicted on a target. But the next two Rift controllers are the ones we're excited about. This is the green Vivan Rift controller, right? This is the one that lets her skill 2 go off every single turn. It turns her skill 2 into a one-turn cooldown, so she will only S2. Except when she occasionally S3s to buff the team, and then she 50% CR pushes and goes back into spamming her S2. This turns her into a tour de force damage dealer that blows all other green damage dealers out of the water, except possibly Wukong. But this is the one that's got my attention. The warrior one. After a warrior uses an attack that targets all enemies, extends debuff duration by 2 turns, ignoring the effect resistance. This can only be activated once every 3 turns, but it spams fast enough that you'll be able to maintain high enough turn cooldowns on your defense break that even when the boss takes everybody through the swirling toilet bowl of death and self-cleanses all the buffs, the defense break should still remain, and that lets you keep defense break up the entire time, and that is key to being able to clear this in one turn. Now, I think when we get to the point where we are at RC14, this one right here is going to let us do so much damage we won't need defense break anymore, and at that point in time we'll shift back to this. But the other thing that's really nice about this one is not just the defense break, but it keeps the severs up. And when the severs are up, the boss will have trouble recovering extra tentacles, and it just lets you have that extra damage stack throughout the entire fight. Now, those of you who are struggling a little bit with health and staying alive, I still think you want to stick with this one if you've got Wukong. The extra healing can really pull the team together, but if you build the way I've built here, you shouldn't need this extra healing, and you can go with 30% more damage. So these are the 2 relics we're going to run for this team. Now remember, as your Rift controller level goes up, your damage dealt will go up. So we're already at a 28% damage boost. This will go up 4% every Rift control level you climb up, so this will go up even higher as you advance, making it easier and easier to clear, faster and faster. So if you're like getting here and you're just a sliver away, you're maybe 1 or 2 bars away from full clearing, that's okay. By RC 12 or 13, you'll probably be there just with the additional damage boost. So this event has the weird backwards mechanic of getting easier the further you push into it. So don't get discouraged if you're taking 3, 4, or 5 runs at this event. It will get easier the further you go, and it should still be worth farming it. So now let's talk about the team. So the first unit you want to go on your team is Bernard. I know we've said build Bernard with resistance, but he actually doesn't need effect resistance. I know he will get debuffed, but it kind of occurred to us, so what? So what if he gets debuffed? None of the debuffs that the Rift boss does keep him from cleansing the debuffs. There's no silence, there's no pushback, so you don't need effect resistance. So build this guy with just HP. Literally, just pump it all into HP and give him enough speed to make sure he is the first unit to go on your team. How fast? 5% faster than your fastest unit. That's how fast. Just whoever your fastest unit speed is, multiply that by 105, round up, and that's your Bernard's minimum speed. Go with that. I put him on the Touch of Rekos artifact. Again, thanks to Inori for pointing this out. Touch of Rekos really helps pull them together and helps keep the team alive. If you don't have Touch of Rekos, try Guardian Ice Crystal or even Celestine, but these are really nice to help with that little extra healing boost on the first attack. That helps keep Wukong from getting one shot. The second fastest unit on the team, the one you want to go next in the turn order, is Vivan. Now Vivan we have built with a lot of damage. You want her at 100% crit chance and give her as much damage as possible. So I went with a destruction set, give her a little bit of bulk. This seems to be enough bulk to keep her alive just fine. For an EE, you want to put her on the number 2 EE. That gives a 50% CR push when she uses her S3. That way she can use her S3 and then zoom halfway down the bar and be ready to start dropping these S2s. Now, as for an artifact, we tried Etika Scepter to cycle her skills. We tried Caladra for extra damage. And then we found this artifact. This is Radiant Forever. You'll find this in the Hall of Trial shop and read the description. An attack that targets all enemies increases damage by 50%. This lets Vivan hit insanely hard, so hard that it blows Caladra and Etika Scepter right out of the water. Now, if you only have this at plus 15, it still is a 37% damage boost. It's still better than Caladra on damage. Where you get this artifact is slide over to Hall of Trials and go into the exchange and click the other tab at the top and you'll find the artifact chilling right here. Now, if you don't have the currency to buy this artifact, just run Etika Scepter or Caladra. Either of them would work just fine on her as a damage artifact, but if you can get Radiant Forever, that will really kick your damage up to the next level. Now, the next unit on the team is going to be Bellona. In turn order, she goes 3rd. And the reason for this is by the time Bernard attacks and then Vivan attacks, the scary-ass Cthulhu tentacle monster will do his attack first. He will cut from his CR pushes, and you want that. You want to make sure that she is the 3rd unit to go in order, but she also goes after the Kraken attacks. That way her defense break will stay up longer. So try to make sure that she is speed tuned to go right after the Kraken does his tail whip, but after Bernard and Vivan. So this is however a bit. At 177 speed, she pulls that off. You want 105% of effectiveness, but to have the maximum chance to stick the defense break. If you're having trouble surviving, you can put Bloodstone on her. I think once we get to RC15, we're not going to need defense break anymore to full clear. I think we'll full clear, and at that point in time, maybe we just change her to a damage artifact and we drop the effectiveness. But for right now, the defense break is necessary for me to be able to full clear. Now, it is a 100% chance for the defense break to proc, but you can still get 15%. So to try to mollify that a little bit, I put Knockwall's artifact Elegiac Candle on her for an extra 37% chance to defense break at the start. Just trying to pad my chances to get the defense breaks onto the boss. If you don't have Elegiac Candle, run Bloodstone for extra sustain, run Our Beautiful Seasons for extra damage, run Wall of Order for constant greater attack buff because those tentacles count as buffs, so you get max chance for Wall of Order to proc. There's lots of different artifact options for Bellona. Just pick one and run with it. For an EE, I've got her on her number 2 EE that reduces the skill cooldown time of Butterfly Fan so that she can do her AoE attacks a little bit more often. This one isn't critical, but it's nice to have. If you've got an option of what to pick, go with this one. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter which EE you run, not in the grand scheme of things. Other than that, I stacked as much damage as I could. Primary thing you want to go for is the effectiveness. Secondary thing you want to go for is the 100% crit. And, well, the primary thing is speed tuning, effectiveness, and then crit, and then just pump the rest into damage. Give her a little bit of bulk. You don't want to go like 800 by 8,000 or she's just going to get one shot. And the final unit who pulls the one-shot team together is Wukong. On Wukong, I still have him on Victorious Flag. It is what keeps him alive at this low of a tankiness level. If you do not run Victorious Flag on him, that is fine. Just beef him up a little bit because he could potentially get one shot if you miss both of the 50% checks, the anti-crit and the pen. You'll see he comes pretty close to death as is at this level of tankiness. Now, if you can build him a little bit tankier, you will actually do more damage. Kane's artifact will give you 21% damage once you max out the number of debuffs the enemy has, and those severs count as debuffs. Plus the 9%, this is a 30% damage boost, so this makes Wukong hit a lot harder. But the loss of the mitigation at my current tankiness, he just dies. So if you can build him a little bit tankier, this artifact might let you do more damage. If you don't have either of these artifacts, you can run his own artifact. It gives you a little bit more crit resistance, which can help you with some survivability, and it gives you a big chunk of crit chance, and that can let you build him a little easier. You can focus the extra 20 some odd gear score into building up his tankiness and his damage in other ways. You can also run him on Our Beautiful Seasons for 20% more damage. Or you could run him on Sigurd's Scythe. The reason for Sigurd's Scythe is he will constantly get knocked below 50% health, and he'll be able to heal himself to full when he attacks, and it boosts his attack by 25%. So this is a really nice survivability artifact as well. So there are a lot of options, but personally, I really like Victorious Flag because everybody has access to it, and the damage mitigation lets me run him a little bit less tanky, which lets me get to the damage point I want. Now I know he's at 96% crit chance. I can get it up to 97% if I 97 or 98% if I get a lucky roll on crit chance here. Can't quite pull off the 100%, but you know what? That's close enough for me. If I change him up to 100%, he loses so much attack that I think that the random once in a while missed crits, not really worth it. So that's my team. The alternates we've got. If you do not have Wukong, you can run Senya. Put Senya on the Holotrials artifact, Sword of Azera, and she'll be able to tank up front just fine. Senya will occasionally throw out some AoE attacks, which will help drop the tentacles down, and she is beefy enough and resistant enough that she frontlines very, very well. If you don't have Senya, you can run the Great Mortelix, or you can run Albedo. Mort and Albedo are really nice because they have defense breaks in their kit, and they're both tanky enough to frontline just fine. If you do not have Bellona, a good alternative would be Green Euphine. She does have a defense break on her S1, but I think you might want to stick with Mort or Albedo up front so that you have an additional access to a defense break. If you don't have Vivian, Mui is a really good replacement for Vivian. Mui gives the attack buff to the entire team, and she has lots of AoE attacks. Mui is also an acceptable replacement for Bellona. If you run a defense breaker up front like Mort or Albedo, then you'll be able to run Mui and still have access to defense breaks, but I'll tell you what, you don't need the defense breaks. You can just run Mui in place of Bellona and leave Wukong up front and run the team with no defense breaks. You're still doing a 2-turn clear. And I think a 3-turn clear by RC15. It's still very farmable. Don't get so obsessed with defense breaks that you walk away from the opportunity of sticking Mui in that spot and having really good consistent clears. So those are my alternatives. Oh, and of course Bernard. Bernard can be replaced by pretty much any Green Soul Weaver that has a cleanse, right? You can run Ocean Breeze Lulika if she is running Doctor's Bag. You can run Destina. She is fantastic for this. You can run Ray. He is probably the best option that isn't Bernard because he gives the immunity and the cleanse and spams some barriers, but Bernard giving barriers at the start of the fight and pretty much every single time he takes a turn, constantly giving barriers, even though he's not as strong of a healer as Destina or Ray, it just makes him a little bit stronger because his barriers are so thick that they're a form of healing in this fight. Remember to put on your Rift Pet, and this is how the fight runs. Turn on auto. Everybody's skills are on except for Wukong. Bernard cleanses the debuffs. Vivian puts on an AoE attack buff, freshens up the immunity. I want you guys to look at how hard Wukong just got hit here. I'll take it off auto just for a second so you can see his health. He only has 800 health left. This is why you want to make sure that you build him tankier if you're taking him off of the Victorious Flag artifact. If you're going for one of the higher damage artifacts, that's great, but build him with enough beef that he doesn't just get one shot right out of the gate from this. Now, Bellona got the defense break off, that's great. You notice the AoE attack, we're up to 4-turn debuff on the defense break now. That's because not only is the boss scaling, but we got enough AoE attacks off that it triggered the Rift Fragment that's extending our debuffs. And what's important is when he takes us through the swirling toilet bowl of death and self-cleanses is that we have at least a 3 on the defense breaks. If we have a 3 on the defense breaks, we will keep the defense breaks. Any tentacles that we have 3s on, we'll keep those as well. So check it out. Now we go down through the whirlpool, and he self-cleansed, but we kept the defense break and a couple of the tentacles. That means he wasn't able to get nearly as many tentacles back, and we still have the defense break moving forward. And that is what really boosts the consistency of this team. you'll notice that even without Bloodstone, even without a real healer, even without Celestine, we're staying alive well, and we're staying alive predominantly because of Bernard's barriers combined with the healing effect of Touch of Rekos. We went down the toilet bowl again. We still maintain the defense break. We full clear with a couple of turns left over. Missed a crit in there with Wukong, so we didn't full clear as fast as I normally do. I normally full clear this with about 4 to 6 turns left. That one was a little dodgy with only 2 turns left, but I haven't missed a full clear yet, with the exception of when I don't stick that defense break. When I get 15%ed at the start and Elysiate Candle doesn't proc, and we go through this without a defense break. Without a defense break, it is still a very clean 2-turn clear, and that is still way, way more efficient than farming hunts, and this is only at RC8. I got a whole 7 levels of enhanced damage we're going to do before we get to RC15, and at RC15, when we pick up that extra damage from Wukong, I think we'll be ready to burst this down even if defense breaks miss. So hopefully this helps you guys farm even more efficiently. I hope you enjoy this one-shot clear team. And by one shot, I should say one entry more than one shot. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. More videos will come out in the future. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments section. And I'll catch you guys next time. Take care, Epic 7.